Men, understanding what a woman feels when you are absent is one of the most powerful tools in modern dating. Your presence and attention have an emotional impact, and when you step back, her feelings reveal the truth about her attachment, interest, and investment in you. Many men underestimate the power of absence because they focus only on constant communication, instant responses, and overgiving attention. The reality is that withdrawal can expose the depth of her emotions, show who truly values you, and highlight who takes your presence for granted. During your absence, a woman's mind and heart begin to process the connection in ways she often cannot express while you are present. She may feel your absence emotionally, socially, and mentally, and the intensity of her reaction reflects her level of investment. Some women will notice the void you leave and feel compelled to reflect, adjust, or even reach out. Others may experience indifference, revealing that your presence was never a priority. Understanding these feelings gives you clarity, protects your emotional energy, and allows you to make confident decisions about your interactions. This video will break down 7 common reactions women experience during a man's absence. Each behavior uncovers psychological and emotional patterns that reveal her true level of interest and attachment. By observing these responses, you gain insight into her priorities, desires, and feelings, giving you the power to navigate the relationship wisely, protect your value, and identify whether she is genuinely invested in you. 1. She thinks about you more when you're absent. The first and most natural reaction a woman experiences is that she begins to think about you more frequently. Men often underestimate this because they assume women are only focused on their own lives, but your presence creates a psychological imprint that persists even when you are not actively engaging. Thoughts about you emerge in small ways. She recalls conversations, shared experiences, or moments where your presence was significant. This reflection can trigger emotions ranging from longing to curiosity, depending on the nature of your connection. A woman who is genuinely invested will notice the void created by your absence and mentally revisit the role you play in her life. These thoughts are often accompanied by an internal evaluation of her own feelings, attachment, and priorities. She begins to consider what your attention, presence, and energy mean to her, which can lead to a heightened awareness of your value. Men often dismiss this as casual thinking, but it is a subtle form of emotional processing that reveals attachment, desire, and mental investment. The intensity and frequency of her thoughts are indicators of how much she values the connection. A woman who rarely thinks of you during your absence is less likely to have deep emotional investment, while one who consistently reflects on your interactions demonstrates attention, desire, and psychological engagement. This cognitive process also triggers self-evaluation. She may wonder whether she took your presence for granted, how her behavior impacts your perception, and whether she wants to maintain or strengthen the connection. For men, understanding this dynamic allows you to observe her subconscious attachment without needing verbal confirmation. Her internal reflection is a reliable gauge of interest, emotional investment, and attachment, offering clarity on whether the connection is meaningful or superficial. By recognizing that a woman naturally thinks about you when you are absent, you gain insight into her feelings, her priorities, and how much she truly values your presence in her life. This awareness enables you to act confidently, maintain boundaries, and protect your emotional energy while assessing whether her behavior aligns with genuine investment. 2. She feels your absence emotionally. When you are absent, a woman often experiences an emotional response that reflects the depth of her attachment to you. Men may think that absence is only noticed superficially, but the emotional impact is far more revealing. A woman who values you will feel a sense of longing, missing your presence, your attention, and the energy you bring into her life. This emotional reaction can manifest in subtle ways, such as thinking about shared memories, feeling a void in her daily routine, or experiencing moments of restlessness. Emotional absence is powerful because it forces her to confront how your presence contributes to her sense of comfort, excitement, or stability. Men often fail to recognize these cues because they are not always expressed through words or direct communication. Instead, they appear in behavior changes, subtle gestures, or internal processing that occurs when you are not actively engaging with her. The intensity of these feelings is an indicator of genuine interest and emotional investment. A woman who is deeply attached will feel a noticeable difference in her emotional state, often reflecting on the value of your presence and considering the consequences of your absence. Conversely, a woman who is indifferent or only superficially invested will feel little to no emotional impact, revealing her lack of attachment. Men can use this understanding to gauge her level of interest without needing constant reassurance or verbal confirmation. Recognizing emotional responses to your absence allows you to observe attachment patterns, desire, and priorities objectively. It shows whether she appreciates your presence, misses your attention, and values the connection in a meaningful way. Emotional awareness during absence is a window into her subconscious evaluation of the relationship, her needs, and her feelings toward you. By stepping back and observing these reactions, you can determine whether she is genuinely invested or simply going through the motions, ensuring that your energy is focused on relationships where your presence matters and your absence is noticed. 3. She becomes curious about your life. When you are absent, a woman often becomes naturally curious about what you are doing, where you are, and how your life is moving forward without her involvement. Men frequently underestimate the significance of this curiosity, seeing it as casual interest rather than a strong indicator of emotional engagement. Curiosity emerges when your absence creates a gap in her awareness of your life. She begins to mentally track your routines, activities, and social interactions. This internal monitoring is her way of processing the significance of your presence and evaluating her own emotional investment. A woman who is genuinely attached will pay attention to details that indicate your happiness, well-being, and current priorities, even without direct communication. This curiosity can manifest in subtle ways, such as asking mutual friends about you, observing your social media activity, or finding reasons to reach out indirectly. Men often misinterpret these signals as casual or superficial interest, but they are actually a reflection of emotional engagement and attachment. The intensity and consistency of her curiosity provide insight into how deeply she values you. Women who are indifferent or minimally invested rarely display this kind of attention, as your absence does not trigger mental or emotional processing. Curiosity during your absence is an indication that she is considering your role in her life, reflecting on shared experiences, and evaluating whether she wants to maintain or strengthen the connection. For men, observing these behaviors offers a clear window into her feelings without needing explicit verbal affirmation. Recognizing her curiosity allows you to understand her priorities, attachment level, and desire to remain connected. When a woman becomes curious about your life in your absence, it signals that she values your presence, thinks about your interactions, and is emotionally invested enough to monitor how you exist without her attention. This knowledge empowers you to make confident decisions about engagement, maintain boundaries, and focus on women who genuinely notice and care about your presence. 4. She reflects on her feelings during your absence. A woman often begins to reflect on her feelings toward you. This introspection is a natural response when she no longer has constant access to your attention, presence, or energy. Men frequently overlook this stage because it is internal and not always expressed through immediate actions or words. Reflection allows her to evaluate the emotional significance of the connection, how much she values you, and whether she truly wants to maintain or deepen the bond. A woman who is genuinely invested will spend mental energy considering moments you shared, the impact of your presence, and what it means to be without your attention. She may ask herself questions like, do I miss him? Did I take him for granted? How important is he in my life? These reflections are subtle indicators of attachment, desire, and emotional investment. Men often mistake the lack of immediate communication as indifference, but in reality, her mind may be fully occupied with processing your absence and the role you play in her life. Women who are minimally invested or indifferent tend not to engage in deep reflection. Your absence does not trigger significant thought or emotional processing. Observing signs of reflection, such as reaching out thoughtfully, making changes to her behavior, or expressing renewed interest, provides clarity about her true feelings. Reflection also triggers emotional recalibration, where she assesses whether she wants to make space for you in her life and considers the value of your presence. This stage is critical for understanding whether she is likely to respond positively when you re-engage, and it reveals the depth of her attachment without manipulation. For men, recognizing a woman's reflective process during absence is a way to gauge emotional investment, attachment, and long-term interest. It provides insight into her priorities and feelings, allowing you to maintain control, set boundaries, and focus your energy on women who genuinely value and miss your presence. Her reflection is not just a thought exercise. It is a sign that your absence matters, and that she is evaluating her emotional connection with you in a meaningful way. 5. She reevaluates her priorities. When you are absent, a woman often begins to reevaluate her priorities, consciously or subconsciously. Men frequently underestimate the importance of this process, thinking that her daily routines and social obligations dominate her attention. In reality, your absence creates mental space for her to reconsider where you fit in her life. A woman who values the connection will start assessing how much time, energy, and emotional investment she is willing to allocate toward you versus other responsibilities. This internal reevaluation is triggered by noticing the void your presence leaves. She becomes aware of what she misses, how your attention contributed to her life, and whether she is willing to make adjustments to maintain the bond. Men often misinterpret her silence during this period as disinterest, but it is actually a period of mental and emotional recalibration. Women who are indifferent rarely prioritize reflection, leaving your absence unnoticed. Reevaluation also helps her confront any behaviors or habits that may have previously undervalued you. She may realize moments when she took your attention for granted, failed to reciprocate effort, or acted inconsistently. This awareness can trigger subtle changes in behavior, renewed efforts to connect, or expressions of care once communication resumes. Observing signs of reevaluation, such as intentional messages, gestures that show thoughtfulness, or increased engagement in response to your absence, provides a clear measure of her emotional investment. Men who understand this process gain insight into her willingness to prioritize the relationship and whether she is capable of matching your level of commitment and effort. Reevaluation reflects her emotional processing and the recognition of your value, giving you the clarity to decide whether continued engagement aligns with your standards. A woman who consciously or subconsciously reassesses her priorities demonstrates attachment, reflection, and a readiness to adjust in ways that support a healthier reciprocal connection. Recognizing this dynamic allows you to interpret her behavior accurately, maintain boundaries, and focus on relationships where your absence matters and your presence is genuinely appreciated. 6. She feels anxious or uncertain when you are absent. a woman may begin to feel anxious or uncertain, especially if she values your presence and the connection you share. Men often underestimate this response or mistake it for overreaction, but it is a natural psychological reaction to the removal of something emotionally significant. Anxiety and uncertainty emerge because your absence disrupts the emotional stability she associates with your attention, conversation, and interaction. She may feel moments of restlessness, wonder about your feelings, or question the state of the relationship. This internal uncertainty is a signal that she has formed an attachment and recognizes the emotional weight you carry in her life. Men frequently misinterpret silence or distance as indifference, but in reality, a woman's anxious or uncertain feelings reveal that she is processing your absence, evaluating her behavior, and considering how to restore connection. This response often prompts her to reflect on her own needs, desires, and priorities, as well as your significance in her life. Women who are indifferent or minimally invested typically do not experience these emotions because your absence does not affect them. Observing signs of uncertainty, such as tentative messages, increased attention to your social presence, or subtle attempts to gauge your interest, provides insight into her emotional engagement. Anxiety or uncertainty also serves as a motivator for her to consider how she might reconnect meaningfully or adjust her behavior. For men, understanding this response allows you to gauge emotional attachment, desire, and the likelihood of reciprocal investment. Recognizing that a woman feels anxious or uncertain during your absence confirms that your presence has value and influence in her life. It highlights the psychological impact you have and provides a window into her emotional state. By observing this reaction, you gain clarity on whether she is genuinely invested, willing to prioritize the connection, and motivated to maintain or enhance her engagement. Anxiety and uncertainty during absence are not signs of weakness. They are indications that your presence is meaningful, that she is reflecting on her feelings, and that she is processing how to respond to the gap your absence has created. This awareness gives you insight into her attachment, emotional investment, and priorities. 7. She shows signs of initiative. When you are absent, a woman who is genuinely invested often begins to show signs of initiative. This behavior is one of the clearest indicators that your presence matters to her and that she values the connection. Men often underestimate this stage, thinking that action must be prompted by constant interaction or direct attention. In reality, a woman's initiative during your absence reflects her desire to maintain engagement and her recognition that your energy and attention are worth pursuing. Initiative can appear in multiple ways: reaching out with a thoughtful message, sharing something she knows you will find interesting, suggesting plans for the future, or simply checking in to gauge your emotional state. These actions demonstrate that she is actively considering how to restore connection, maintain engagement, or express her interest without waiting passively for you to return. Men often misinterpret the absence of direct communication as disinterest, but observing initiative provides a more accurate understanding of her investment. A woman who takes initiative is signaling that she notices the void created by your absence, that she is evaluating her role in the connection, and that she is willing to take steps to reinforce her importance in your life. Conversely, women who are indifferent or minimally invested rarely display initiative because your absence does not influence their behavior or priorities. For men, recognizing initiative allows you to measure emotional investment and gauge the likelihood of a reciprocal relationship. It reveals her level of desire, her willingness to invest effort, and her motivation to maintain a meaningful connection. Initiative also shows that she values your presence and is willing to act to sustain the bond, rather than passively observing from a distance. By observing her actions, timing, and consistency, you gain insight into her priorities and emotional attachment. A woman who demonstrates initiative during your absence confirms that your presence has impact and that she is motivated to engage meaningfully. This behavior provides clarity, allowing you to differentiate between genuine interest and superficial attention, and ensuring your energy is directed toward relationships where your value is recognized, respected, and reciprocated. Initiative during absence is one of the strongest indicators that she is emotionally invested and willing to act to maintain connection, making it a critical signal for men to observe and understand. Men, understanding what a woman feels during your absence gives you unmatched insight into her true feelings, priorities, and emotional investment. Her reactions, thinking about you more, feeling your absence emotionally, becoming curious about your life, reflecting on her feelings, reevaluating her priorities, experiencing anxiety or uncertainty, and showing initiative, reveal the depth of her attachment and desire without the need for manipulation or constant engagement. These behaviors are signals of genuine interest and provide clarity about who values you and who takes your presence for granted. Many men fear stepping back, thinking absence will cause disconnection or loss of control, but the truth is that strategic withdrawal exposes reality. Women who are truly invested will notice, reflect, and take steps to re-establish or maintain connection. Those who are indifferent or minimally attached rarely change their behavior or feel the emotional impact of your absence. Observing her reactions allows you to differentiate between meaningful attachment and casual curiosity, giving you the power to protect your emotional energy and maintain your standards. Recognizing these patterns empowers you to act with confidence, maintain boundaries, and focus on women who genuinely appreciate your presence. Absence is not about playing games, it is about revealing truth, testing emotional investment, and understanding the value you hold in her life. By paying attention to how she responds, you gain clarity, preserve your dignity, and ensure that your energy is invested in relationships where mutual respect, attention, and emotional engagement are present. Her feelings during your absence are the clearest reflection of her attachment, priorities, and desire for connection.